Hi, third grade. This is lesson 20.4 for Thursday, May 7th. It's on slides, flips, and turns. And hopefully you've been able to view the BrainPop Junior on it, as well as my introduction with the terms of translations, reflections, and rotations. So let's go ahead and get started. Slides, flips, and turns. Those are all transformations. In other words, we're changing a figure and moving it around. A plane figure can be moved in different ways. If we look at this first one here, we're just basically moving it across. That's a slide. A flip is like a Mirriam-each. Okay? Our hands can be like that. Okay? They're a flip or a reflection of each other. And then finally, we're moving the figure to do a turn, or we're rotating it. Okay? So those are our terms that we have to become familiar with today. Now, we're going to take a look at this activity. It says use a red trapezoid. Show different ways to move the block. Okay, we're going to just kind of walk ourselves through this. Okay, if I put it on the piece of paper and I trace it like they talk about, I can flip it, okay, I can slide it, or I can turn it. Or in other words, I have a reflection, it's like looking in a mirror. I have a translation, which is a slide, or I have a turn or a rotation. We can try this out with different shapes, and you're still going to have the same thing. Remember, we have slides, flips, or turns, or translations, reflections, or rotations. Okay, think about how you use slides, flips, and turns to describe motions in real-life objects. When we slide a dollar bill across a counter, we are performing a translation or a slide. Also, if we're looking at a postcard and we flip it over to look at the back, we're performing a reflection or a flip. And then finally, when we're trying to fit that puzzle piece in, we're turning it every which way or we're rotating it. You can describe a motion used to move a plane figure as a slide, flip, or a turn, or a translation, reflection, or rotation. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at what kind of motion was used to move each of these plane figures. We're going to write slide, flip, or turn. Just keep in mind that there are also translations, reflections, and rotations. And we're going to take a look at how we know these things. Okay, if you look at number 1, we've taken this figure and we've moved it. We have turned it, or we have rotated it. Okay, so what would we write on this first one? Well, if I'm rotating it, we're going to write that we turned. Okay. If we look at number 2, we see this dotted line and we can see that we have flipped it over. Okay. And when we flip something over, we also call it a reflection. So this is a flip or a reflection. Okay, and then we can look at number 3. We're taking that Z-like shape and we're just scooching it, okay? Or I'm sliding it, and the other name for a slide is a translation. Okay, let's look at number 4. It's the same kind of thing. I'm taking this and I'm moving it, okay? Or sliding it across, so we're going to call it a slide. And a slide's also a translation. Let's take a look at number 5. Okay, I've taken that shape and I've moved it that direction. So it is a turn or a rotation. I have rotated that shape. Okay, number 6, we have that dashed line to show that something has been flipped. Okay, it's like the postcard that they used in the example earlier. And a flip is also called a reflection. Okay, number 7. It says, which figure shows what figure A would look like after a flip? Write X, Y, or Z. Okay, so we're taking a look at this one right here. Okay, it wants to know what it would look like after a flip. So I have to imagine that dotted line and then I've flipped it. Would it be X, Y, or Z? If you said Z, you would be correct. That's what it looks like after it's been flipped or had a reflection. Okay? Number 8, draw a picture to predict the result of turning figure A. What do you notice? Okay, they actually have given us a pretty good clue here. If we refer back to that A, and I move it somehow, it's going to look a lot like the Y figure there, okay? It shows that I've moved it in some way, I've rotated it, I've turned it, okay? And number 9 says copy figure Z on grid paper, draw and label a slide, flip, and a turn. They've already done that for us here. This would be the representation of the slide or the translation. This one, figure Y, is the turn or rotation, and we've already indicated that this letter Z is the flip or the reflection. Okay, if you want to take a look at these mixed review and test prep, those are all things that you should remember how to do. It's not a bad idea for you to take a minute to do those, see if you come up with the right answer. Have your parents take a look at it and see if you did it right. And when you turn this in to us, we'll go ahead and take a look at it also. Okay, well, let's go ahead and take a look at your homework. So I'm going to take us back up to the top here. We've got to move to the arrow so we can go back. Okay, this first part just talks about the vocabulary. Okay, also remember a slide is a translation, a turn is a rotation, and a flip is a reflection. We're more concerned whether you know if it's a slide, flip, or turn, but like I said before in the other videos, it's important for you to know that they do have other names. You're going to take these terms and you're going to go ahead and put them in the correct blank. On the bottom here, it says tell what kind of motion was used to move each playing figure, right? Slide, flip, or turn. Think about those different movements. Think if you're rotating it, or if it's a reflection, or if it's a translation, or if it's a slide, flip, or turn. You'll write it on the blank just like what we did when we did the math book together. And then on the bottom here, you do have some patterns to practice. Once again, those are something that we need to keep ourselves current with and make sure that we take a good look at. And this is just a review. This is actually the review side. You're probably going to want to do this side first. You've got your letter E, and they're doing all kinds of things to it. We can slide it, we can flip it, we can turn it. Remember, that's a translation, a reflection, and a rotation. And we're going to just tell how these figures have been moved. and it goes through, it reminds us how to figure those things out. And on the bottom here, you're just going to go ahead and tell me how it was moved, and whether it was a slide, flip, or a turn.